Hello guys, so you're welcome to our new series on Learn with Kowi channel. So on this series we call it the DAX Playbook. So it's kind of going to be similar to our Microsoft Excel work hour, but the only difference is that this one is going to be a bi-weekly stuff, unlike that 50 days of January when we underwent then. Now, but before I dive into that, let me quickly explain some brief introduction about what Power BI is and the DAX playbook is. Yes, if for those of us that started the Microsoft Excel work hour from the beginning, if you notice there was no slide in that one. Yes, the reason we are having slide in this is that Excel, a lot of people are actually kind of familiar with Microsoft Excel, but Power BI, a lot of people are not really familiar with Power BI. I hope you are getting me. So we need to kind of wet the floor so that people will be able to step on a wet ground. So now let me quickly tell us what Power BI is all about and before I dive into what this document. So in today's class we are going to be jumping from this between three things. This DAX playbook, Microsoft Power BI itself and Microsoft Excel. Just for us to have introduction of what does it entails. So that is why we are going to be having it like that. So but before we move further, now let me quickly tell you what is Power BI. Now Power BI is a what? Is a power okay, the BI means power and business intelligence. So it's a data analysis tool. We also call it what? Business intelligence tool. Now, so what my business intelligence? So and okay, let me just say business intelligence. So then let us dive deep into that. Now, Power BI kind of let me just say it entails four things. Yes, the Power Query part, which is what the data preparation, data visualization part, which is what where we build our graphs, our charts, and stuff like that. Then we have the data modeling part, where we create our relationships. Exactly. Relationship between what? Different tables. Then we also have the last but not least, the DAX part, which is data analysis expression. The DAX means data analysis expression. So this DAX is kind of similar to that of what Microsoft Excel functions and formulas. Now the only difference about this is that in our Excel there is the way we make the calculations is how would I call it? We can say what we want to do we want to specify a particular cell, right? Okay, this the way I want to do this now, I just want to work with this particular cell. I don't want to use this cell. But for Microsoft Excel, it's for DAX, it's either we are working with with a particular row, with a whole column or row base. I'm going to explain all this also. Exactly. So you can say I want to specify this line, this particular row. I want to only apply what my function to this particular row and it should not affect every other one. It can't happen like that in DAX. And to be honest, DAX is kind of is a little bit, let me just say a little bit complex than Microsoft Excel function, but it's quite understandable and also once you grasp everything you need to know, you can you'll be able to use it as easy as you can use Microsoft Excel functions and formulas. So without wasting much of our time, let's dive into what our document. Now, what is that? I said that what DAX is what data analysis expression. It is the formula language you use in Power BI to create calculations and analyze data. Yes, like if you remember very well, what we use our Excel function and formula functions is to create calculations to analyze our data. So that's similar to our DAX also. Think of DAX as Excel formulas on steroids, but for entire data sheet, not just individual cells. This is what I was explaining. For Microsoft Excel, if you are working, you can say, okay, this function I want to do, I want to specify what with this cell. But for data, for this particular cell, but for our DAX, it's for what? Entire data set. It's either you're working with the whole of the column. Let me quickly show you something here. So let me quickly come to this particular place. I'm coming. I'm coming. Let me quickly open my Excel function. Let me bring in the data here also. Okay. So now this is my Microsoft Excel data set. This is my data set. Now I can say okay I want to make a calculation here, but my calculation I only want to check, let me just say maybe I want to sum the this instruction field now. Okay, let me just say I only want to sum this from this particular place to this place. I can do that with in my Microsoft Excel. Right, so I will just come and say what equals to sum, equals to sum. Now what I will do this like this. I will click this like this and say enter. You can see it. I can do that. So I can specify my cell. But in Power BI, no, you can't do that. In Power BI, you can't do that. Let me quickly show you something. Let me come to my third view so you can see that also in Power BI. So now I have all my data. Let everything load. So now I have my monthly charges here. If I want to create a column and I want to add anything, it's either I'm creating the column and I'm adding everything so that what I'm going to be having all everything, all the whole rows here is going to be having what a value. I cannot say only these three places should be having a value and the main three should not be having. No, I cannot do that. I can't do that what in Power BI. So once you get how to create a column also you see what I'm trying to explain about that. Now so then let's move to the next one which is now the core of Power BI intelligence. Now what is DAX? Data analysis expression is the formula language used throughout Power BI analysis. Yes, like I've told you about that what the way we have functions in Microsoft Excel, DAX is also what the formula language we use in what Power BI. Analysis service and Power Pivot in Excel. Now don't I also told that what the Power Pivot is just like what data modeling what in our Excel. Exactly. Now and for whenever you are using data modeling, if you require to make some functions, to use some functions or to make some calculations, we use DAX. Hope you are getting me. That's why I said that what Power Pivot in Excel. So that means we also use DAX what in Excel, but only in the Power Pivot what section part of what Microsoft Excel. I hope you are getting me. It enables powerful data modeling and calculation capabilities. Yes. So once you get to there will be some place we are going to introduce ourselves to data modeling also. Just brief introduction for us to what to get the DAX better also once we start what our class. So why is it crucial? It moves beyond simple aggregation to create complex. So use for simple aggregation, we can use this word to create complex dynamic metrics. So metrics is just like what calculation, maybe the sum, any type of calculation, it falls under this metrics. You get me? The adjust based on what user interaction, filters, slicer. That means so those functions we are actually creating, we can what? We can adjust them, we can interact with them with what? With both filters and slicers. Now without DAX, Power BI is just a visualization tools of for raw data like I told you. Without DAX, we cannot. That means the only thing you'll be able to do what in Power BI is just what? Just for what? Visualization. And your visualization is also not going to be making good sense because of what? You need some calculations. You need to perform some functions, some formulas for you to be able to what? To get what? A meaningful what? Analysis of what? Of your data. So if you're not able to do those functions, you're not able to do those formulas, then that means your visualization is just like what? Just mopping up what? Different stacks of what? Of charts and stacks of graph, and that's just all. Now the outcome, mastering DAX is essential for creating true business intelligence. Like I told you, Power BI means what? Power Business Intelligence. I hope you get me. So DAX is going to you are going to be needing DAX a lot for what? For creating true business intelligence, advanced KPIs, time intelligence comparison. There is so a part we call time intelligence, year on year, month on month, last like this time last year, this time last period. We have a lot of what? Of time intelligence also, and by God's grace we are going to get there also. And highly customized data narratives. Now, so this is just like what the way it looks. Now look at this. This is where Excel is. Do you see it? Now this is Excel interface and this is how what DAX works. So this is like let me say what the DAX studios of what Microsoft what Power BI. Do you see it? This is where we write what our DAX. The language that is used for this DAX, we call it query. If I'm not making mistake, yes, query. Now look at it. So Excel formula, let us quickly what compare between DAX and what Excel. Now look at it. With while both use functions, DAX operates on a deeper level, dealing with entire tables and complex evaluation context, unlike Excel that was cell by cell focused. Excel is just based on what cell by cell. But for that, it go what deeper than what than ordinary cells. Now, for example, context is the single cell reference. You can say A1 B5. Now this one, context is dynamic, influenced by filters and relationships. Raw context and filter context. What do you mean by raw context and filter context? Because in our life, we are also going to be learning everything about what this part also. Now, calculation runs sequentially, row by row. For what? For our Microsoft what? Excel. But for this one, calculation are performed on entire columns and table simultaneously. Yes, you can perform calculation based on what? Entire columns. That's what I was telling you the other time. If I want to do something now, let me quickly show you. Okay, let me say I want to create a new column here. A new column. I can say I want to specify a particular cell. So let me say I want to sum some. Okay, let me just say example of sum now equals to. Now if I want to use the sum function, now you see it is giving me the table name, then the name of the columns. I cannot say I want to comment comma. I cannot say okay I want to select just 3 cells. It's not going to allow me. So I need to mention the particular column I want to work with for it. So mention the particular column, it will now go there to go and perform that operation on what I said. And if you see, let us just use this. No, customer ID, I think it's not number. Or is my customer ID is not number. Let me use something that has number, which is the monthly charge. Let me use this. This is everything is going to have function. Everything is going to have what? Something field there. Exactly. So I can say I want to select just somewhat columns. But for here, if I come to my Excel, I can say, okay, I want to create, let me say I want to create, let me just say addition sample also. Addition sample here. If I come here, I can say equals to sum. So I can just say, okay, this is what I want. And to give me what I want, you see. But for Power BI, it's actually what? It is different. I hope you're with me. Now, primarily used for data entry, formatting and simple calculation. Yes, we use Excel for data entry, formatting and simple calculation. In fact, I used to tell people, you know you're not dealing with something that is very, very tedious. You can just stay with what? With Microsoft Excel. Exactly. And you know you don't need something dynamic that keeps changing. Just stay with Microsoft Excel. And even if you need something dynamic also that keeps changing, in as much as your data is not that much and what Microsoft Excel can do everything you need. Just stay there. Hope you're with me. Because of what Power BI is kind of what complex, is a bit complex. Let me just use a bit. But once you understand better also you'll be able to what use it by God's grace. Now look at it. Used to define dynamic measures, KPIs and calculated column and table. What my calculated column, what my table, what my measures, we are going to understand it also during the course of the class. So function like sum A1 to A10 sum, static ranges, you see static ranges. What do my static that mean? A range that is constant, that is not changing. Now function like calculate can change the entire filter context for what? Can change the entire filtered context for evaluation. So we are going to be using this calculate a lot once we get what to that part of what of our tax function. Now let me quickly show you some things also. Now building blocks, column, measure and tables. Now let me quickly explain this. Now there is something we call calculated column, there is something we call measures in Power BI, there is something called calculated tables. Now let me quickly tell you what each of them does. Now you see calculated column, this calculated column is what I have done here the other time. This is what we call calculated column. See, I created what a new column by myself. And you see, if you notice something here, you're going to see a sign here. This sign is letting you know that what this is what a calculated column. That what it's not a column that is part of our data initially. Something we just calculated ourselves. I hope you're with me. Now, so that's calculated column. Calculations are performed at data load time or refresh. What do you mean by data load time? That means if I should create this calculated column and I'm trying to what to if I should stop this, if I should close this document and I want to open it, it's have to what start refreshing also. I hope you are getting me. It will start refreshing from as the okay, let me just tell you two things without reading from the document for you to get it. Now you see one thing about calculated column is that what one thing first, it makes our what our document larger. Now then you see the what I've created here now is going to add to the kilobyte of my document. Let's assume my document was initially let's say my document was initially 21 KB for example. Once I add a calculated column, it depends on the size of that what of the column what I added. So it can add maybe 1 KB, can have 0 point something KB, it can add more than that. It just depend on what how the my new column is what is consuming what spaces. Hope you are with me. But for calculated measures, it is not like that. Calculated measures is going to be created but it's not going to add anything to our what to the size of our document. If you create 500 calculated measure, it's not going to be adding anything at all to what to your Power BI file document. You are going to understand that better also. We also have calculated table. So this one we are creating a whole table ourselves. You see, calculation perform at data load time to create a new physical table in the model. You are going to be seeing physical model table means that you are going to be seeing that table. That means we are adding a new table entirely to what to our Power BI. We are going to see that also during the course of our class. So now we have decision matrix, when to use which DAX type. Now, whenever we want to do basic aggregation like sum, like we want to sum, maybe you want to sum the total of something, you want to multiply a whole column, you want to do some stuff. So that's what called aggregation. So it's better you just what measures. That's what where KPI what actually enters also. But don't worry, we get to understand that better also. Now, you want to categorize your grouping like age group, stuff like that. Measure is not going to what? Is not going to work there. It's what the best thing you can use there is what is calculated column. I hope you're with me. That is the best thing you can use there. Now we also have what whenever I want to use slicer or axis. Slicer, it's what it's calculated measure what you also what use what for slicer also, not what our measure. So let me assume I need something, maybe I need a particular I want to extract something that what I use from my slicer. So measure is not going to work fine there. So it's better what we just create anything you want to get with calculated column, and table can also work for that also. Now we have date and time intelligence. For date and time intelligence, it's always better use what? Use measures rather than what? Calculated column. And you also have what? The calculated table also. Where we are going to be creating what? Calendar table. So once we get there also you get to understand better. Hope you are with me. So calculated columns are best for adding context that doesn't change with filtering, like both product category measures are for like product category. So let me assume I want to create product category now. You know that is not going to be changing in as much as um each product is going to be under a specific category. So calculated column works for that. Measures are for anything that aggregates and react to the report canvas. So anything that is going to be like summing, that's going to be aggregating, like like changing also. Change saying okay maybe if I should change the value or I increase value or I decrease value or I added more values. So for stuff like that, measure is what is the best. Now let me quickly show you something. The DAX engine, how calculation are processed. Now client query, you type what you want. We have what known as formula engine, we have what known as storage engine. Then we have what known as return result. So return is what you are going to get. You get it? What do you mean by this formula engine? This formula engine is where your Microsoft Power BI needs what to be undergoing row by row what calculation. Let me just put it like that. While storage engine is what? Just like what? Ordinary aggregation, like summing everything together, stuff like that. So let me just put it like that. You get to understand better once we dive into what? The practical part of this class. We are going to get it better. So we have what you know as what? Formula engine. The formula engine, see. So job interpret DAX, manage context transition. You see like calculate. It's going to be transition me into form that okay, let me just use what row by row. So this formula engine basically is for like row by row stuff. You get me? So But for this one now, this storage engine is basically most for what? For measures. For measures. Let me just put it like that. So we get to understand better once what? Once we are what? In our class. Once we enter our class. Then we also have the power of context, which is we have what's known as row context and filter context. Now, what my row context? We have to understand this row context also and filter context very well. So the calculation is evaluated by row column in calculated column. An example are iterating function, which we know as sum x and average x. So what do by this row by row function? Let me quickly show you something in Power BI. Let's assume I want to get the total. Okay, let me just assume, okay, I want to this and this, I want to multiply them. You get me? So then we are going to have the telecom customization like this. Then I will now have this monthly charges and this total charges. Now, do you know what my Power BI is going to be doing? It's first note. I ask it what sum all this. Hmm? Sum no. The first note is going to be multiplying everything. Okay, 70.45 times this, then plus this times this plus this times this. So it's not going to be doing it one by one by that's what I mean by what iterating function. So it's going to be performing this function. As it's going down, it's going to be what? Performing this sum function. So this x function is for what? Iteration. We are still going to get this better once we start the class. Hope you're getting me. So this x for what? For iteration of what? It's going to be going through all this one by one, one by one, one by one. Then as it is moving what downwards, it's going to be what summing, performing this sum function. Hope you are with me. So I don't want to bore us with a lot of things. Then filter context also. This one is what when this filter contains basically which calculate function for it. So I don't want to bore us with a lot of questions also. So but at least this for us to have basic introduction before we dive into the class. That's the essence of what of this part. So once we get to the class, we are going to get it better. So we also have what naming convention. We have the naming, formatting and readability, commenting. What does this formatting and readability means? It's just a way of what the way we write our DAX so that it will be neat for anyone that is seeing it, they'll be able to read it. So comment means that what you just want to what you want to type something what in the section of you writing your DAX, so you want to just type something for this. So for anybody that's seeing your DAX, they'll be able to read and understand it. So that is just what it means basically. And that's just basically that is the introduction of part of this class. So this I'm going to embed this document what in the description of this video. So you can go through it and what and work it. So God willing by Friday you are going to what have an hands-on session where we are going to start using what DAX and using what each function. So I hope we get me clearly from this. Thanks for watching. Meet in our next class. Bye.